Okay, welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Directors, Monterey Peninsula Water Management District for Monday, December the 13th, 2021 at 6:08. Correction, 6:06. Give us a little time. All right, the meeting is roll call, please.
Director Roberson?
Here.
Director Adams?
Here.
Director Anderson?
Here.
Director Malik?
Here.
Director Riley?
Here.
Director Paul?
Here.
Chair Edwards?
Here.
All directors are present.
Thank you. Could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Thank you. Any additions and corrections to the agenda?
There is one correction. And Joelle, I didn't print it out. Do you have that one handy?
Yes, so the correction on today's agenda, under action items, item number 15, I will recommend to the board that we strike out the recommended language that's published in the agenda. And the language that should be inserted there is the board should review and consider adopting the MPWMD Redistricting Advisory Commission rules of procedure and provide direction to staff on the names of communities of interest that should be invited to participate.
Okay, when we get to that item again, we'll bring that back up again.
Yep.
Right, thank you. One correction. Okay, our next item will be oral communications.
All right, so the Board of Directors welcomes your public comment during oral communications on matters not on today's agenda. If you would like to provide public input, please raise your hand via Zoom, or if you're calling in, push *9. When it is your turn, I will identify you by your name. And if you're calling in, I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. At that time, you'll need to push *6 to unmute yourself, and you may identify yourself for the clerk's record. Sarah, do you have the timer ready? And if you can, please screen share. And at this time, I would like to invite Susan Schiavone. Susan, when you're ready, please present your comment.
Thank you. Good evening. It's raining, yay. I just want to add my voice to express disappointment in the LAFCO vote, which I found stunning. It was based on politics and personal bias for the most part. The no voting commissioners ignored your agreements to address their concerns as part of conditional approval. And despite all of your cooperative efforts to give them more information and help them make correct decisions, the reasons for denial were way outside the scope of the issue of latent powers. Whether the peninsula should have desal, the public's in the way of CalAm, or whether the peninsula is contributing enough to wastewater, or that government can do anything right. I support you in pursuing any appropriate legal options that you feel are necessary, and do hope that the LAFCO Commission will seriously reconsider their decision and reverse this in January. And I want to thank you for all the hard work you've done so far in trying to enact Measure J, and I hope we can go forward with that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. At this time, I would like to invite Anna Thompson. Anna, when you're ready, please present your comment.
Yes, my name is Anna Thompson. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Anna Thompson, and I'm also wanted to, I'm sharing the same comments that Susan just made. LAFCO's board discarded the facts, ignored their own staff's determination, and gave no good reasons why they refused to grant conditional approval of the Peninsula Water District latent powers. One of the reasons given by some commissioners is that the government cannot run anything efficiently. Considering CalAM's historical performances versus the district's performance, LAFCO will have a very hard time proving that CalAM has been a good service provider. Any of the reasons are just excuses. We have to remember that CalAM is a monopoly. Its only goal is to increase its capital investments and shareholder returns. CalAM's profit interest conflicts with our public best interests. CalAM has owned the peninsula's water delivery system for many decades. But it is the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District that has successfully developed several water supply projects for the peninsula, including the Pure Water Monterey, which is now producing sufficient water to allow CalAM to stop its illegal drafting of the Carmel River. CalAM has opposed the Pure Water Monterey expansion in favor of its desal because it earns 9.2% rate of return on its capital investments. We have a capable, well-run water management district with a well-qualified, diligent staff, outstanding general manager, council, and a board of directors that is attuned to the needs of its constituents. These people are ethical, hardworking, and committed to the public interest. Our water system should be public-owned and be managed by public agency that is accountable to the community it serves. Leave it to the court to decide. Okay, I just wanted to say that please continue to follow, to acquire our CalAM, and I support whatever you do because you have our best interest at heart. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
The number ending in 902, I will ask you to unmute.
Hi, my name is Nina Beatty. I wanted to comment on two items for the consent agenda, item number 4 and item number 5, and I request that you table both these items. The description obscures that their rebates are for two so-called smart wireless devices, an irrigation controller and smart flow meters. Smart flow meters are just another version of the smart meter. The health harm is the same. I don't know what definition you've been given on these devices or what you understand of technology, and I would like to know who defined them as different than smart meters. These are wireless, microwave-emitting measuring tools. HUD calls these meters electromagnetic field meters. A flow meter is what a smart meter is. The board opposed smart meters last year. How do you square smart flow meters with that opposition? This will affect the environment. This costs ratepayers, and with your subsidy funding, the district is practically giving them away. And with the subsidy, the district has obligations as a Title II entity to make sure its services, facilities, and programs comply with ADA and fair housing. This does not if it's interfering with a person's access to their home, their access to the right-of-way, or to essential services, a person such as myself. So I ask you to table these two items because they have not been clearly evaluated. And on item number 5, what wired communications options exist for the digital current meter? Use wired. Connect your stations to wired networks. Don't make your stations wireless or satellite connected. Wireless is not a gee whiz toy. It's not magic. It causes damage and change to biology, to atoms and molecules. Research indicates the high frequencies enhance metal corrosion, which is very costly to water equipment. The environmental effects impact birds, insects, plants, and trees. So rushing into so-called solutions or great ideas have created other calamities. We know that. So please step back. The earth is under so much stress right now, and so are your neighbors. So don't add more. So please table both of these items for more investigation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. All right, next up, I have Tammy Jennings. When you're ready, please present your comment.
Hi, I'm Tammy Jennings, and I want to also say how upset I was about the LAFCO decision and how irresponsible and bad it was. Bottom line, I want to thank you all. God bless you for doing such a wonderful job. Keep up the good work. Continue to press forward. I can't believe we're going to have to go to the courts to get past this, but if we do, please, please do it. We need your help and we need this to pass at some point. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Chair Edwards, I do not see anybody with their hands raised up. Melody, when you're ready, please present your comment.
Melody Krislop, now. I guess by now we all recognize that this was a vote on water supply and nothing else. Again, Salinas Valley interests trying to dictate water policy to the peninsula. I met with Chris Lopez on the Friday before the vote. And the first thing I asked him was if he was aware of the limitations on any rate hike for the Cal-Am Chular customers. And he said, oh yeah, now I am. I wasn't before, but now I understand that it's limited by the CPI and it won't raise, right? So I thought, okay, good. We're clear on that. Then he went on for the rest of our meeting, pretty much just going on and on about how the peninsula needed Cal-Am's desal. There was no other way. The whole thing was about water policy. And I was like, wait a minute. This was a meeting about LAFCO. So when he came out, with his first comments that he couldn't vote yes because he was concerned about his Chular constituents, that was an outright lie, and I knew it. And I was worried because I thought, okay, he's going to make this about water supply. And he and Kimberly Craig did. And the others just joined in. I mean, what an unfortunate situation. We have such dysfunctional politics in this county, and it's just disgusting that we have to sue in order to go to court to sue. It's like, how much harder can they make this? Anyway, thank you so much for all your hard work and, sticking with it. And hopefully any judge will see what happened here. Just play them the video. That would be very enlightening for any judge. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Chair Edwards, I do not see anybody with their hands raised, so I'll return this back to the board.
Thank you, Joel. Okay, next item, consent calendar. Anyone want anything pulled from consent calendar, the first 5 items? If not,
I move approval.
Wait 1 second, George, on your approval. I'm going to pull 4 and 5.
Okay.
Since that was brought up. Anyone in the audience, Joel, check anything from the audience if they want any items from consent calendar pull.
As a reminder, please raise your hand, or if you're calling in, push *9. Chair Edwards, I do not see anybody with their hands raised.
Okay, we're gonna, George, I take the motion on the first 3 items.
First 3 items, yes, that's my motion.
I second it.
Okay, motion by Director Raleigh, second by Director Clyde. Okay, any comments on the first 3? If none, roll call vote, please.
Yes. Director Malik?
Yes.
Director Roberson?
Yes.
Director Riley?
Yes.
Director Anderson? Director Adams?
Aye.
Going back to Director Anderson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Paul?
Yes.
Chair Edwards?
Yes.
The motion passes on a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Motion passed 7-0. On items 4 and 5, General Manager, you heard the person speak on those items. What do we have to say? Do we have staff on board to address that tonight, or do we need to carry them over?
Well, item 4 is just setting a rebate amount. It's a modification to the table. And item 5, you know, this was at the recommendation of the Water Demand Committee. The full board made a recommendation before, but raised questions about the rebate amounts relative to toilets and other inquiries. So we brought it back to committee to have that discussion. And then it was moved forward to the full board for consent after going through administrative committee. So I'm not a scientist. I do recognize that there are people who are unhappy with smart meters, have been unhappy with the electric smart meters for PG&E and Southern California Edison and others. It's a similar argument here. It's not a new argument related to water and water supply. Obviously, the industry is going in this direction. So it's, you know, it's something out there that we have supported. It's useful information. It makes for actually greater real-time information to the consumer than the AMI metering, the advanced metering infrastructure does, at least in a number of the different models of flow meters. So, you know, I'm not a doctor. I can pretend that I am, but, you know, there's a lot of literature out there on both sides. And as I said, the industry is gravitating in this direction.
Okay. General Counsel, are you out there? I see too much of Joel.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Could you answer, is the rate case closed or anything that we could bring up on those 2 items?
Those 2 items are not before the commission. These are the rebate amount is what the district does pay, and the meter for surface water monitoring, that's a district issue. I will be reporting on the general rate case under item 9, but these are not directly related to that.
Okay,
yeah, and I think
go ahead.
Just for clarification, I don't believe item 5 is related to the flow meters. Stephanie, can you correct me? Is this a John Lear issue?
Yeah, David, this is my item, and it's not a water meter that would hook onto a pipeline. It is a digital current meter that's used by our hydrologists when they're measuring the flow in streams. So it's not related to any piping or anything.
Yeah, so item 5 is unrelated to the speaker's issue.
Okay. All right. Mr. Laredo, just a point here. Do we have to go back out to the public for these 2 items? I heard her speak in oral communication on these 2 items. So what's your thoughts?
No, sir. Your oral communications provision of the agenda says anyone wishing to address the board on consent calendar information, matters not listed may do so only during oral communications. Your oral communications has closed on this.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any questions from the board on these 2 items? I'm going to move approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, move approved by the chair, second by Director Adams. Okay, any other comments on them? If not, roll call vote, please.
Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Adams?
Aye.
Director Malik?
Yep.
Director Roberson?
Yes.
Director Riley?
Aye.
Vice Chair Paul?
Yes.
Chair Edwards?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Motion passes. Okay, 7-0. All right, next item is General Manager's report.
Yeah, I want to go a little off script to start. As of this afternoon, the state head of the California Department of Health and Human Services announced a statewide indoor mask requirement going into effect on Wednesday for a month. So from December 15th through January 15th, the rule will apply regardless of vaccination status. COVID cases have jumped more than 40% since Thanksgiving statewide and have more than doubled in Monterey County. More details are to come in the next day. Our understanding will be for when you're in public spaces, which is similar to the district's current rule, so won't really change our workflow processes, but should be aware of it. Just when you think you're getting closer to going back to normal, you're not. So that's just a heads up prior to agenda item 6, which I'd like to address now. Joelle, if you can put that up on the screen. This is the compliance reporting for the first 2 months of the water year, October, November. Next slide, please. This is actual versus target production for the 2 regulated pieces of the water supply, the Carmel River subject to the cease and desist order and the Seaside Basin subject to the adjudication. You can see that we're outperforming, and that just means actual is better than target. One of the interesting things here is the coastal was budgeted at 0 as a target, but was actually hit for 65 acre feet. And that's just an anomaly for basically serving the city of Seaside and the Laguna Seca sub-area. The plan had been to really work on the river for the last 3 months of the calendar year because there's a slightly higher effective diversion limit there than there will be after January 1st. But nevertheless, target exceeds actual. Next slide, please. And these are some of the other water supply sources. ASR recovery, obviously, we met our budget at 0. But all I wanted to point out here was that Pure Water Monterey recovery is actually lagging relative to the target, but the company has all intents of increasing the Pure Water Monterey recovery in the next few months to balance out the number of deliveries that we've made from Pure Water Monterey to their actual recovery for ratepayer use. Next slide. The only takeaway here, this is production for customer service or proxy for demand. And year to date, a whopping whole 2 months, we're 99 acre feet below where we were at this time last year in terms of customer demand. I don't think you can take away any hard and fast conclusions from that, and we'll just let it play out. Next slide, we'll talk a little bit about rainfall. Our 2.3 inches year to date is 81% of long-term average. You can see where October kind of offset November, but we're still, under. And then to date at our San Clemente gauge, this current rainfall today was at about 1.22 inches. And you can see that the average for December is, between 3.5 and 4. So we're well on our way. That rain gauge is up in the central Carmel Valley, near Carmel Valley Village, a little bit further inland. But the gauge for Point Pinos, which is Pacific Grove, was also at about 1.2 inches. And the gauge out at the Monterey airport was a little bit less. So it feels like, we all felt like it's been 3 inches already. Wish it was, but it continues to rain and is expected to continue here into the nighttime. So we'll get something more out of it. Next slide. This is the slide that we've been showing more often for about the last year. The blue bars are the daily totals and the red line is the cumulative for the year. And this is only good through, what is that date? 10/1, so it's still the 2-month period, September and October. And then finally, the unimpaired stream flow. We're actually below average at about 55% of long-term average year to date. But as the ground begins to get more saturated and then rainfall continues, you'll see that start to tick up with the additional rainfall that we're seeing right now. And then storage on the Carmel River is 91% of long-term average. So it's shaping up pretty well for us. The Central Valley or the Sierra received quite a bit of snowfall and continues to do so. The state issued a statement yesterday that these rains aren't enough to eliminate drought concerns for the state as a whole. But we're watching it very carefully because it is a signal that if it were to continue and maybe another good rainfall in December, that we'll be pretty much starting off above normal. But again, that spins off of getting one more good rainfall out of things. So stay tuned. And that concludes item 6. Item 7, I think the staff note is pretty detailed. All the activity to date has been on Pure Water Monterey and Pure Water Monterey expansion. I think it's well described in there. But I did want to point out that on December 1st, the American Society of Civil Engineers has informed Monterey One Water and ourselves that Pure Water Monterey has been selected to receive an honor award, and then possibly later in the year, the 2022 Outstanding Civil Engineering Achievement Award. So this project, along with the other projects listed, which included, I believe, 11 projects nationwide, as far east as New York and includes Texas and Utah and Seattle. Anyway, they're all in the running for the top prize at the annual event. So I think it's nice that, sleepy little Monterey and this very innovative project are competing with some of the big boys, including, as an example, One Vanderbilt, which is the new tower at the Grand Central Station in Manhattan, as well as some other pretty large and aggressive engineering projects. So kudos to our team with Monterey One Water and the Kennedy Jenks, the engineering firm who's been working on that. So let's all give ourselves a pat on the back for that. And that will conclude item 7. Oh, I threw out my shoulder patting myself on the back. But
yeah, good job. Hey, before you get into number 8, your next item. Okay, I always ask this, and I know on ASR, I always ask, are we ready to inject when that river starts flowing where we can? I think we're going to have some delays in that. Let's throw that out there to the public because they, if we're not going to be able to inject, I want them to know. So let's go over that a little bit.
Yeah, and there will be. John Lear, if you want to step in here and kind of just give us the fundamentals on the conflicts, the parallel pipeline, the tracer study, and how those all fit together and when we'll have our clearest runway for injection.
Sure, Dave. There's actually a slide with a graphic in the public hearing for the quarterly water budget that shows this as well. So we can go over that now and then again, go over it then. In the month of December, we are in the process of a tracer study, injected dye at the Pure Water Monterey wells. There has been a request to not use ASR 1 and 2 to not interfere with that tracer study because that's being used to prove the underground storage retention time for Pure Water Monterey. So for the future operations of Pure Water Monterey, ASR 1 and 2 are not to be used until the tracer test is over. It should be over in sometime in the month of January is what's predicted. So what we have now is the other constraint would be the need of Cal-Am to use the ASR wells to recover, so they have the capacity to recover Pure Water Monterey. Right now, with these storms, we expect Los Padres to fill and spill at some point tonight. We would see some point on Wednesday, the peak would go down the river. If the predictions are come true, we would enter into a couple days of permitted injection. We have been working with Cal-Am that we will shut down ASR3 and then reverse the direction of flow in the General Jim Moore pipeline, and we will use ASR4 to inject water. We can do about 5 acre-feet a day through December. Moving into January, however, the desire and the need to recover pure water Monterey will require shutdown for ASR in the month of January and into the month of February, because it's needed as a source, and the parallel pipeline is on schedule to be finished sometime in February. Once that is finished in February, the tracer test will be over. Cal-Am can use ASR3 to recover, and ASR wells 1 and 2 can be used to inject. And so after the completing of the parallel pipeline, we would expect to be able to do about 10 acre-feet a day through the end of this ASR season. But as Chair Edwards has said, that there are some limitations. There are some short-term limitations, and the long-term limitations have been planned for, and the solutions are in action, but they're just not here yet.
Thank you. Okay, you can start on number 8.
Great. So number 8, I think that the staff note speaks for itself. 2 of the things I wanted to get across were that we were once again active in tracking bills for the year, both at the federal and the state level. And we did supply our endorsement in a few letters of support, several of which at the state level got passed, many of which got combined into the state's funding for water infrastructure for the next budget cycle, which was described in the update that JEA and Associates included. Then on the federal level, the point that I wanted to make was, here's the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that recently got passed, and all the different categories that are water related. And I went through them category by category and just showed you where the district either qualifies or may qualify. And I think it's instructive, not just for our district, but any other district in the county or anyone who's looking, because we often hear from, our both board members and members of the public, oh, there's so much money floating around. And as you can see, a lot of it, for a variety of different reasons, is not available to us. And some of those reasons are having a nexus with a federal Bureau of Reclamation project area, like the Central Valley Project. Many dollars available for disadvantaged or small or rural communities. And so forth. But that was included specifically just so you can kind of see where the money goes. The second act, the Build Back Better Act, has more money in it for water infrastructure, and we will be following that one. I did want to point out one little, I don't know, happy but small piece of the Build Back Better Act. And Joelle, if you throw that letter up, in addition to making money available, this act has in it something that we've been trying to address as part of our nationwide participation with the Alliance for Water Efficiency. And that's that all these rebates that we do, and at the administrative committee last week, there was a very large rebate issued, a $17,000 rebate for over 200 toilet retrofits, have always been subject to federal taxation and W-9 reporting. Electric power rebates have been subject to an exemption from income tax reporting since the early 90s. So this is a copy of the letter that went out. It did go out under Alliance for Water Efficiency letterhead. But Joelle, if you go to the second page, and stop right about there. Right in the M's is Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. And I just want to point out that we've got some good company. Contra Costa Water District, East Bay Municipal Water District, or Utility District, excuse me. Two above us is the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. And on and on, Municipal Water District for Orange County, Sacramento Suburban Water District, Sonoma County Water Agency. So we do quite a bit of rebate funding, and this will be to the benefit of our customers and consumers if it passes, and it'll take a little bit of the heat off our finance staff who have to kind of track these things if it's over a certain amount, and if the rebate recipient doesn't give us their W-9 information, then we have to do withholding and so forth. So it's a small piece of the Build Back Better Act, but it's something that we've been trying to get equal footing with the electric utility industry for, probably 5 or 6 years now. So hopefully it passes. We're looking forward to it. And then that bill, it's back with the Senate. And so hopefully they'll conform the House version, and we'll see passage of it before Christmas. There's still some debate whether that'll actually happen or it will get moved to January. But we're keeping on it. And then back on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, there are some specific watershed related, so fish passage related monies that we will be pursuing. In a week or two, I'll be sitting down with our environmental division manager about what exactly the preferred project's going to be in the Los Padres alternatives analysis regarding fish passage. And then the Ferguson group has asked for a write-up on that to see if they can't not just qualify for money, but maybe get it in as an earmark. So for a community funding project, which is discretion that's been given back to the legislators under, House leadership under Pelosi. So if we hold the House, hopefully we can get an earmark in next cycle before the election in November, so we can get an earmark. And that would be anywhere from a few $100,000 to small millions. So that's one of the focus that we'll have going forward. That concludes the GM report for today.
All right. Any board questions, Director Ralph?
I just want to congratulate the general manager, but also the alliance of public agencies that are trying to get a equal treatment between electrical service rebates and water rebates. I think this points out the difference that Matt Gurley does not understand. And this is where public agencies have a service that's beyond just a normal, just delivering a product. And I think we ought to be proud of that. And I congratulate the district for joining the larger effort. And thank you for that.
All right. Any other board questions to the GM on this report? Okay. If not, District Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening to you, the board, members of the public. Before I announce on number 9, I'd like to give a report coming out of closed session. The board did have one item of a public employee performance evaluation for the general manager. The board did confer with the general manager, heard from him, gave him their perspective, but no reportable action was taken. Under the conference with legal counsel, there were 6 items on there. The board was able to address the last 2 items, conference with legal counsel concerning significant exposure, MPWMD versus LAFCO, and 2 items of potential anticipated litigation. As to those 3 items, no reportable action was taken. Board did ask questions and did give general direction. The remaining 3, A, B, and C, on our closed session calendar will be discussed following the open session this evening, so the board is going to return to closed session for those items 2A, 2B, and 2C. Again, no reportable action was taken on the litigation issues. Addressing 9A, that has to do with CalAm's 2019 general rate case. That CPUC A 1907004. This is CalAm's 2019 application to increase its rates for the years 21, 22, and 23. Ordinarily, a rate case takes approximately 18 months, but in part because of COVID-19, this is delayed by an additional year. A decision was issued by the commission in this case on November 18th, so the matter is now closed. The decision that was made does fix rates for the 3 years. In 2021, the revenue requirement approved for CalAm is $72 million, almost $750,000. The following year, the revenue requirement increases to $75,600,000. And in the third year, 2023, the revenue requirement raises to $77,590,000. By comparison, in 2018, the revenue requirement was only $60 million. So now we are, the third year of this rate case will be $77.6 million. The district did actively participate in the proceedings since its inception and did enter into a settlement agreement with CalAm on several Monterey issues. We were successful in our efforts to reduce the surcharge on ratepayer bills. In particular, the conservation and leak adjustment expenses are no longer a surcharge, but are reflected in base rates. We were successful in protecting Monterey's conservation budget. There had been a proposal that budget be made available for use elsewhere in the state, but we were able to protect it, so all conservation dollars will be used locally. With respect to rate design, important changes were made to eliminate the 5th tier of residential rates, so it'll be a 4-tier rate. One of the effects is to increase the monthly meter charge so that the meter charge alone accounts for 30% of the required revenue, which makes the rates less volatile. CalAm used an annual consumption adjustment mechanism as a pilot program previously, but that is now a permanent program, and that eliminates CalAm's unreliable sales forecasting methods. The previous forecasting method resulted in very large adjustment balances. At one time, the adjustment exceeded $39 million for Monterey ratepayers. This adjustment mechanism is now capped at 15%, and it will eventually sunset that carryover balance by 2023. The district again successfully argued against the high cost fund that had been proposed by CalAm, by which its potable water customers would subsidize the Monterey wastewater district. But we do expect that CalAm will take another run at this in the future. There's agreement on a variety of capital projects. One of our new Carmel Valley wells on the former Rancho Cañada golf course. That would provide water to help the district's ASR program. And another capital project is the Forest Lake pumping station that benefits the ability of CalAm to move water from the north to customers on the south side of its system. Some of our requests were not accepted. We did make an effort to have CalAm purchase more generators to ensure fire flow during power outages. That was not accepted. And we did ask for a more robust rehabilitation and replacement program for wells, but that was not accepted. So it was a bit of a mixed bag. This matter is closed, and there is no longer an opportunity for the district or the public to comment to the commission. But Cal-Am is already gearing up for its next general rate case filing. And the district, as in the past, has regularly participated, and I anticipate that the district will once again, because issues continue from cycle to the next. Cal-Am is rather tenacious, and if it doesn't get what it wanted the first time, it comes back again and again. The next rate case will have a preliminary application filed by Cal-Am in May of 2022, and a final application in July 1st of 2022. And these are for the rate years 2024, 25, and 26. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions from the board? And if it's not any, I'm going to open up this to the public for 3 minutes. It's supposed to be put on the agenda, but it didn't make it. So I want to open it up to the public for 3 minutes on the comment on this item only, the rate case. So Joelle, could you please open it up to the public for public comment on this item?
Yes, so if you would like to make public comment on item number 9A, please raise your hand. Sarah, do you have the timer ready? And Nina Beatty, when you're ready, please present your comment.
This is Nina Beatty. The rate case, as the district knows, there was one issue that was presented by the board that was specifically advocated by the board, which means the district, and was not presented at the PUC, and that was the issue of smart water meters. Now, I have been engaged in a lot of question asking to find out what the situation was. Initially, I believed that the CPUC was not considering testimony that had been submitted to them, but then I come to find out that the testimony had not been submitted to the CPUC. This is, for me, and there are other people in the county, in the Monterey district that it affects, this is an ADA issue. It's a fair housing issue. I have given extensive testimony to the district on what happened when Cal-Am installed AMI meters in the Monterey district, which they have done already, and the process to get them removed. Cal-Am has not been responsive and in many ways, and I find myself in a very odd position with the district. I provided a great deal of information. You had a hearing last year. You made a specific stand, and that stand was not taken to the CPUC. So the CPUC was ignorant of the district's opposition and withdrawal of support. In February, Director Stolt had said that the MPWMD supports AMI as proposed. That was changed by the district's vote, and there was quite a bit of testimony, and yet that never happened. That change of stance never happened. And so people like me and in Monterey District are now faced with a situation that's very dire. And there was a lot of comments. Some of the board members are now new, and they weren't part of that proceeding. I hope that they listened to that hearing. But now the district has seemingly backtracked on itself, and staff did not take this position forward to the CPUC, which they are tasked to do as employees of the public, employees of the district. So I am extremely disappointed. There may be many excellent things that came out of this settlement. I read through much of the proceeding and saw issues that were resolved, but this is a big issue, and it's not being dealt with, and I'm very disappointed.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to invite Susan Schiavone. Susan, when you're ready, please present your comment.
Hi, Yeah, it looks like they're going to raise the rates again pretty big. And thanks for getting the concessions that you did get. I appreciate that there is an ability to actually get some concessions. I had some questions about the monthly meter charge at 30%. Is there a way to explain that to us so we understand what that means? And if you opted out of the smart meter situation, how does that work if they're going to do a meter charge of 30% of your bill? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Chair Edwards, I see one more hand raised, so I'll go ahead and invite Marley Mountain. When you're ready, please present your comment.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question. In general, what would this mean in terms of a percentage rate increase for typical customers on our water bill? It was a little hard to figure out just from the information presented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Edwards, I do not see anybody with their hands raised, so I'll return this back to the board.
Mr.
Okay,
Edwards,
thank you.
I'd be happy to respond to some of those questions.
Oh, go right ahead there.
Okay.
I was going to ask you first. Go
Thank
ahead.
You. On the question of the 30% on the meter, this is a question of rate design. When you take a look at CalAM's total revenue requirement for this next year, it's going to be approximately $73 million. Then the question, how much of that revenue requirement is earned on your variable rate and how much on the fixed meter rate? The decision of the commission was that they would increase that fixed rate to 30%. So collectively, amongst all of the meters, that 30% of CalAM's revenue requirement would be paid for by merely having the meter, the monthly cost of having that meter. And it doesn't matter whether it's a smart meter or a non-digital meter. That would be the meter fee, the ready to serve fee for the meter would collect 30% of that in terms of rate design. The other question is, what would the percentage be for a typical customer? I'm not sure there is such a thing as a typical customer, but customers are charged the meter fee as well as then for the different tiers of water use. And it does depend upon the type of water use, whether it's commercial, residential, or industrial. And so those all are separately inflated. And I don't have an answer to tell you what that theoretic typical increase would be. I can tell you that CalAM's increase for this year for its revenue requirement, looking at the entire system, is approximately 6% for the 2021 rate increase, and then rate increases thereafter in addition to that. With respect to Ms. Beatty, I heard her make a statement of concern, but I didn't hear a specific question. I have had correspondence with Ms. Beatty on her concern, and at the moment, she and I don't agree on this point. I can assure you that it's my understanding the district's position was to follow the direction of the board. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comment.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions to General Counsel on this item? If not, this item is closed. Director's report, AB 1234. 5, reports on trips, conferences, and attendance of meetings. Anybody? Okay, if not, just a comment from the board chair. Okay, one thing that we know, we went through LABCO. this board is not going to give up on Measure J. Measure J is a rule of this board and of this district. So I just want to tell everybody, we're looking at all options out there. We're not going to give up because it's a rule. So please keep your heads up. Keep your attendance in play, and any questions, please give them to the directors so we can front them out to the general manager, general counsel. But just in closing, we're not giving up on Measure J, and don't give up on the district. Thank you. Okay, general manager, we're in the public hearings.
Yes, and I think they should go relatively quickly. Item 11 is the second reading of Ordinance 189, and Stephanie Locke has a presentation.
Thank you. Great, thanks, Joel. So this is the second reading and consideration of adoption of ordinance number 189. Next slide, please. So I'm going to summarize the points that are the things that are changed in this ordinance or added in the ordinance. Under the Rule 11 definitions, high efficiency clothes washer and high efficiency dishwasher, the definitions have been amended to match the Energy Star requirements. So it's consistent with the US EPA Energy Star program. The district requires Energy Star certification for both the rebates and as a condition of a water permit. We've added a definition for a public water system. And as we discussed at our last meeting, and I'm going to go quickly through this because I know we did spend quite a bit of time on them at the last meeting. We added a definition to Rule 11 as defined by the State Water Resource Control Board Division of Drinking Water to facilitate an added requirement to Rule 21 for Department of Drinking Water preliminary approval prior to the district's consideration of a water distribution system permit. And in the past, we've been working with DDW. They have been critical of small water distribution systems that may not have adequate long-term water supplies. So it makes sense for them to have first review before the district starts spending time on an application. We've added a definition for the smart flow meter. And again, this was also discussed at length at the last meeting. And we've also added a rebate for smart flow meters to the rebate program with a maximum rebate of $200 per device and limited it to one rebate per user on a site. This was discussed December 3rd by the Water Demand Committee. We've also allowed a second rebate or subsequent rebates for high efficiency dishwashers and ultra high efficiency toilets if they're being replaced at least 10 years after they received their initial rebate. And we have in the past allowed a second or subsequent rebate for the high efficiency clothes washers. And at this time, we're seeing that there's a need to continue allowing a second or third rebate for dishwashers and ultra high efficiency toilets. And so that's the recommendation on this one. We've clarified the rules relating to the processing of water permits for tenant, this is non-residential tenant improvements, for sub-metering and reporting requirements. Next, please. We're allowing a permanent sub-metering for apartment buildings and condominium buildings of over 4 units. And at the last reading of this ordinance, the ordinance read 4 units or more. It was changed, so it is more than 4 units to address certain circumstances where you may have 2 houses. And we want to keep it to larger buildings. If somebody is a smaller multifamily housing, they can come to the board and request a variance for the sub-metering. We've added a definition of a water permit waiver, which is essentially the same thing as a water permit, but it usually is done because the jurisdiction is requesting our review. Swimming pools, if they're filled with trucked water, have to get their water from a licensed state licensed water hauler. The ordinance addresses the process for relocating a clothes washer into a multifamily unit when there's a common laundry room on site. And this is just a policy that we've had for many years that we're just trying to codify. We are disallowing credit for reduced non-residential water use capacity when a non-residential use wants to take a portion of their business either outside of the water distribution system or outside of the district. For example, if a hotel wanted to take their laundry and do their laundry up in Watsonville, that type of thing, that would not give them a reduced water use capacity. The ordinance deletes Rule 91, which is the short-term variance process, which goes back to the beginning of the district and has been obsolete since the district adopted its current permit process. And we are also dropping the 2016 date from Regulation 15, and just because it obviously makes sense not to have that date on there anymore. And the regulation stays in place, it just doesn't have the date. So next, please. As I mentioned, Water Demand Committee did review this again after the last board meeting. And we discussed the rebate amounts and limitations. The board should receive public comment this evening before approving second reading and adoption of ordinance number 189. And if adopted this evening, it will be effective January 1st, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board questions at this time of Stephanie? Any board questions? I can't see the, y'all bring the board, thank you. All right, I don't see any hands up. Let's open it up to the public for 3 minutes.
Okay, so if you would like to make public comment on item number 11, please raise your hand, or if you're calling in, push *9. Chair Edwards, I do not see anybody with their hands raised, so I'll return this back to the board.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my first question is this. We changed that rebate for the toilets from $50 to $75, right?
No, we did not make any changes.
We left it was.
Yes, we left it exactly as it was.
Thank you. So it's $75. Okay.
Yes.
How about CEQA? Have we been through CEQA with this and everything is going to be?
Yes, this ordinance does not constitute a project under CEQA.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other board questions? If not, I'll take a motion. Okay, I'm moving to approve this. We've got a long agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mayor Clyde. Okay, motion by the chair, second by Mayor Clyde. Roll call vote, please.
Director Riley?
Aye.
Director Adams?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
From the real, I was still very confident in what I get.
Director Malik?
Yes.
Director Roberson?
Yes, with a big thank you to the staff on great work.
Vice Chair Paul?
Yes.
Chair Edwards?
Yes. And a thank you.
Motion passes on a vote of 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
This is John Lear's presentation, and you'll get to see the graphic that was referred to back in the discussion on ASR.
Good evening, Chair Edwards, Board of Directors. This is item 12. It's a public hearing item. And thank you, Joelle. It is for the board to consider adoption of the January through March 2022 quarterly water supply strategy and budget for the California American Water system, main system. Next slide, please. The state board orders that are considered when creating these budgets are, of course, Order 9510, 9804, 2002-02, and 2016-16, as well as the changes with the cease and desist order coming on January 1st. We also take into account the limits set for production out of the Seaside Basin by the adjudication decision, as well as the targets set by the board in ordinance related to Rule 160. As for ASR, we slightly touched on this earlier, and in the next slide, we'll see the graphic explaining it. But we are within the time window for injection. However, we have not reached stream flow requirements, but we may on Wednesday. So we have been working with Cal-Am's operations and have a plan if that is to take place. And the plan is to move into injection at ASR 4, which would be about 5 acre-feet a day. The Table 13 diversions are within the same time window and stream flow requirements. So if we do hit the triggers for that, Table 13 water will be diverted and delivered to customers in Carmel Valley and Carmel. And as for Pure Water Monterey operations, as David alluded to slightly earlier, that there will be a slight faster rate of recovery than injection to recover some of the water that Cal-Am has paid for and has not produced. So next slide, please. So the assumptions, we assume full utilization of all seaside coastal areas throughout the rest of the water year 2022. We will continue ASR injections as long as we remain within our permitted thresholds of river flow. But here is the graphic that is explaining during December and January, we are undergoing a tracer test. So we are limited to not use ASR 1 and 2 for injection. In February, we should see the completion, hopefully, of the Monterey pipeline or the parallel pipeline, which would allow for bidirectional flow north and south in General Jim Moore and simultaneous operation of Pure Water Monterey and ASR injection. And this pipeline being finished would allow for partial February, March, April, and May for injection in ASRs 1 and 2, which would translate to about 10 acre-feet per day should we be within flow trigger requirements. This strategy was developed on December 7th by the Quarterly Water Budget Group, which is the district, Cal-Am, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and NOAA Fisheries, as well as the State Water Resources Board. So next slide, we'll move into what that physically, this is the climate prediction outlook for December, January, February. So coming into the next 2 months of this quarter, and it is shown that it is slightly predicted to be below normal, which isn't the end of the world, because as you saw in the precipitation, if you were to get 80% of the normal precipitation, we would still get precipitation enough that would cause river flow enough for ASR operations. So while it's not as good as it could be, it's not the end of the world either. So next slide. So this is the January, February, and March to take that strategy that was adopted for this quarterly water budget. We have proposed to produce water out of the upper subunits. If we go within flow regime, the river comes up, we will utilize those wells to produce excess water out of the valley to move over and inject in the Seaside Basin. The lower subunits, as we see the production overall in the valley for customer use falling down to fall within the calendar limits of the remaining 3376, or what translates to, if you do the amortization of the first 3 months, the 4,110 acre feet that are allowed to be pumped off the river in water year 2022. We have put down possibility of 150 acre feet injected in February with the completion of the parallel pipeline, and then possibly 300 in an average year, and even in a slightly below average year, usually in March, we have quite a few operational days. So we're still hoping that that's the case. And on the shoulders of the months, we can inject water and build up our drought reserve. We of course still have we have table 13 diversions, and at the rates and the slightly below average prediction, the numbers come out to be the 38, 52, and 60. And then the Seaside Basin, in the coastal sub areas, the plan is produce 50 acre feet per month and recover 350 acre feet per month of pure water Monterey. And that would be the remainder of the supply for the community. So it brings the total for all sources to the 713, 899, and 1084, with the use in the months of February or March, some of the production out of the valley, the 150 and the 300, to go to ASR injection. So if there's any questions about how the group translated the strategy into the months and the different source areas, I can answer any of those. Okay, hearing none, I can move on to the next slide. This is about the Laguna Seca sub-area, and in the adjudication decision, the allocation for the Laguna Seca sub-area has fallen through the triennial reductions to zero, not the entire coastal area, but just the Laguna Seca sub-area. And so I wanted to highlight, this is about a 10-year average of production out of the Laguna Seca sub-area, where we're expecting consumption of about 21, 19, and 22 acre feet. However, the interties to the main system have been completed for the Ryan Ranch and leaving only the Ryan Ranch and Bishop, leaving only the Hidden Hills system to produce water out of the Laguna Seca sub area. And so the allocation falling to zero will be covered through a mechanism that's described in the adjudication decision of recovery and application of secondary producers that underproduce their allocation, and those are shared back to the primary producers. And so the punchline is that only Hidden Hills will be running throughout this is the plan. And so next slide. So the recommendation staff recommendation would be to adopt the proposed water supply strategy and budget for the Cal-Am main system for the second quarter of water year 2022, which is January to March 2022. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions from the board on this? Okay, Director Rowley.
Yeah, John, this is just a comment on the presentation. When you're talking about ASR and you start at the top of the chart and you start talking about some of the numbers, then you jump to the bottom of the chart and talk about some of the numbers, and then you jump back to the middle of the chart and talk about some numbers, it would be helpful to me if you direct me to where to look and where to follow, rather than trying to find it at the point. So I'm just asking that in the future presentations, you say in the TARP third and the top, whatever you call it, then the bottom part, whatever it is, just call our attention to where the data is so we can follow your numbers. That's point number one. Point number two, could you go back to the very first page of your first slide and just describe the 3 photographs that are in the presentation? Because I would like to know what they represent.
Sure, I can I'll talk about the regions as I discuss them. That's a great suggestion. The very first slide.
Very first slide.
17, I think it is right there.
Yes, those photographs.
In the left-hand corner, that is a drill rig, and in the top you have the hydraulic connection to the drill rig, and then it spins the drilling shaft. It's sitting on top of what was ASR3 as it was being drilled. ASR3 is about 900 feet deep, and so this is at some point when we were out there just to kind of get a context of what you go through when you're actually drilling into the earth and drilling this out. I don't know at what point this is, whether we were drilling the pilot hole or we were reaming the hole. So this is just to show the magnitude of the equipment that's involved in putting installing an ASR well. Moving over to the man in the purple jacket, this is the significance of that is that's Joe Oliver, and he's the person that is primarily responsible for bringing ASR to the peninsula as far as the science and developing of it and passing it through the initial regulatory hoops. And so we've just been expanding on his work since we've been expanding the ASR. The next picture over is actually the bit that is on the end of the shaft that's on the left-hand picture that is crunching up the earth as the ASR well is being drilled.
Thank you. Fascinating.
Yeah, George, that side with Joe Oliver is at the Seaside Cemetery. That's the first spot we start injecting water in. So that's in the cemetery. In the corner right across the street from the ASR. So that's a good shot. I remember that. Any other board questions before we take this to the public? If no board questions, Joel, please open it up to the public.
Yes, so if you would like to make public comment on this matter, please raise your hand. Or if you're calling in, push *9. Chair Edwards, I do not see anybody with their hands raised, so I'll return this back to the board.
All right, we need a motion and a second.
I move approval.
Okay, moved by Director Riley, second by Director Anderson. Okay, any other comments on it? If none, roll call vote, please, Joel.
Director Adams? Director Malik?
Yep.
Director Riley?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Roberson?
Yes.
Director Adams?
You're muted, Mary.
Oh, I thought I already voted. Aye.
I didn't hear it. Vice Chair Paul?
Yes.
And Chair Edwards?
Yes.
The motion passes on a vote of 7-0.
All right, 7-0. Just on a mention, since I'm an ex-firefighter, somebody's smoke detector needs to be changed.
I hear that too. Yeah.
I hear the beep, and that's somebody's smoke detector. And that's hey, when the clocks change, you change that battery. All right, thank you.
That may be mine. I need to check again.
All right, but I'm hearing that beep. Okay,
There's
next
two of them.
Manager.
Sorry, I was chuckling. I've gotten 3 texts about the same smoke detector. The next item is it's that time of year for approval and adoption of the annual financial report. And Suresh has both his own presentation, and then we have our auditors, I believe we have our auditors online as well. So Suresh, take it away.
Yeah, good evening, Chair, members of the board. General Manager Stolt is right. I have a brief presentation, PowerPoint presentation, and then after mine, I'll hand it over to Ray Galati with Hayashi Villan. She is online with us, and so is Michael Briley as well. So both of the auditors are available, and they will go through a series of presentation as well. So Joel, you want to bring up my presentation, please? So I won't go over the pictures since John Leah did a good job of explaining all those 3 pictures. So I'm using the same picture in my PowerPoint. Next slide, Joel. Some of this terminology and slides are going to be repetitive, but it's important to highlight this again as we go through our financial report. Yes.
Suresh, let's go back to the previous slide and point out the change in the acronym.
Yeah, I do have a slide noting on that.
On that later? Okay, fine.
Okay. It used to be the CAFR.
It's called ACFA now instead of CAFRA, and we'll hit that in one of my slides. So GASB, what is GASB? Basically, Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They were established in 1984. They push out standards almost every year these days. Some year, if we're lucky, they push out a few standards, and the auditors will highlight some of the new standards that they have pushed out that basically governmental firms are required to follow. Next slide, Joel. ACFA, what is ACFA? It used to be called CAFA, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. There was a name change last year. It changed from CAFA to ACFA. So all they did was, instead of calling it Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, now it's called Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. That's the name change. And there are going to be some staff report, and the title on the agenda itself, we did not catch that. That's still referencing CAFRA, but it's actually ACFA now. So what is ACFA? It's a set of governmental financial statements, and it comprises of the financial report for agencies, special districts like us. And we are supposed to follow the guidelines set out by GASB. And then GASB provides all of the standards for the content of a ACFA, what is supposed to be in the actual ACFA, so that we can go ahead and apply for the GFOA award. So we always have to follow the guidelines set out by GASB. And as I mentioned, the name changed from CAFA to ACFA. Joel, next, please. And ACFA is compiled by the governmental accounting staff and then audited by the external certified accounting firm using the GASB requirements. And Hayashi Whalen is the auditors. They have been the district auditor for a while now, and they have been auditing our financial statements. The ACFA actually does have 3 sections. If you look at the actual report that was sent out separately, it has a introductory section in the report itself. It has a financial section, and towards the back part of the report, you have the statistical sections. Next page, Joel. So those 3 sections, as I had mentioned, Roman numeral from 1 to 10. It has the introductory section, which has the letter of transmittal from me and Dave. It has the ACFA award that we have won over the last 6 years now. It has the government structure, how the government entity is organized. And then the financial section from pages 1 through 58 in the actual report. It's got the auditor's opinion in there. It's got the MD&A, or management's discussion and analysis, which is a short summary of the overview of the financial report. It has the basic financial statements, which also includes the notes, which are detailed notes on the financial statements. And then the back part of the ACFA has from page 59 to 73, it has the statistical sections, and those statistical sections have 10 years worth of data. And these are all required, as I said, in order to apply for the GFOA award. So all of those are compiled in the actual ACFA report. Next slide, Joel. So as I mentioned before, our financial statements have been audited by Hayashi Whalen. They are licensed certified public accountant. This year's audit, they have issued an unmodified clean opinion, which is the highest standard of the opinion. And so that's what was issued to the district. The certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting, this was the 6th year that we had won the award. We have continuously done that for the last 6 years. This is the 7th ACFA that we have prepared. We will be submitting it to GFOA again, and we feel strongly that we will be getting a 7th award as well. Next slide, please. I'll briefly touch on some of the numbers that are included in the report. The detailed version of the statement of net position can be found on page 12 of the report. The governmental activities are reporting on the district operations. The business type activities reporting on the Pebble Beach Reclamation Project. Because we financed the Pebble Beach Reclamation Project, they are included in our actual comprehensive report as a component unit. So as you can see, our total assets for the governmental side activity and the business type activity, the deferred outflows, liabilities, deferred inflows, and then at the very last line, you have the total net position of the agency and also reporting on the Pebble Beach Reclamation Project. Next slide, Joel. This is the balance sheet, governmental funds. And so this is basically only reporting on the district activity and operations. You can see our total assets, and we do a comparative here from 2021 to 2020. You can see not much change on the total asset side. Total liabilities for the 2021 year did decrease about by $1.5 million. And then the deferred inflows about relatively same. And then so the total net, the total fund balance for the district did go up by about $1.5 million from 18.09 to 19.6. Next slide, Joel. This is looking at the statement of revenues, expenses, and change in fund balance. And again, this is on the district operations, comparing 2020 to 2021. Total revenues, you can see, jumped significantly quite a bit from 14.1 to 19.2. Primarily, the biggest increase here is because we started selling pure water Monterey water to Cal-Am. So that is recorded in here. So you'll see a significant jump for the fiscal year 2021. Total expenses also jumped as well because we are buying that water now from Monterey One Water and selling it to Cal-Am. So on the revenue side, you'll see the increase. On the expense side, you'll also see an increase as well. The net change in fund compared to 2020 this year was 1.5, as opposed to 2020 being a little over $1 million. A beginning fund balance was $18.09 million, and you'll see that that's the year end of year fund balance from 2020 that's transferred over as beginning year fund balance. So our year end fund balance for this year 2021 is $19.6 million, and so that's an increase of about $1.5 million, and that is the change in fund balance. And all of these detailed numbers are reported in the actual financial report, the comprehensive report, and the page number that it's available on, I have footnoted on all these slides. Next slide, Joel. This is just looking at the district revenues now, just on a graphical form, just to get kind of like a grasp of what are we getting in terms of revenues. You can see the water sales, PWM water sales is about 31% of the total revenues now. User fee as well is about 31%. On the left-hand side, the maroon color is water supply charge, 18%. And then property taxes, about 12%. And then some of the other smaller pieces of pie there. So this is just kind of like to show in graphical format what our district revenues entail. Next slide. Looking at the expenses, again, in the graphical form, you'll see project expenses, about 36% of the budget, water purchase, which is about 34% of the budget, personnel cost is about 21%. And then some of the other slices, again, smaller slices, 5% or less than 5%. Next slide, Joel. This is the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund balance. Now, this is looking at our actual, what we did for the year compared to our budget. You can see our total revenue for the budget was about $20.9 million. We did about 19.3. Most of the impact there did not materialize because of some grant revenue that we had budgeted. They deferred into next fiscal year because they were not billed and not completed. Total expenses, $27 million, as opposed to the actual coming in about 17.8. Most of those are from deferred projects not being completed this fiscal year. Some of the big ticket items that comes to mind are the deep injection well. There was also some other project, the grant projects that were not materialized. So all of those are carried forward into next fiscal year. We had anticipated a negative change in fund balance. As you can see with the budget, negative $6 million, which was going to be used from our reserves, fund balance. But in actuality, our revenues, the actual revenues came in a little higher than what the expenses were. So that's the change in fund balance that I had shown on previous slides, was $1.5 million. That's what that entails. And the detail on this one, it's kind of like a long list of details that you can see. Each line item goes from page 52 to page 54 of the actual report. Next slide, Joel. Pension and OPEB liabilities, beginning of the year, which means last year when we finished 2019-2020, that's the number, $9.6 million, and it's spread out between the pension and the other post-employment benefits. Sometimes we also refer that as OPEB. That's the beginning of the year. The change in obligation for both the pension and other post-employment benefits, those two totaled about $817,000. And so our end of year obligations on the pension and OPEB stands at $10.4 million. And there will be a detailed report on both pension and OPEB as well. That will be coming to the board in January. Next slide, Joel. So we do recommend that the board receive the fiscal year 2020-2021 annual comprehensive financial report. But before we go to that, I would like to hand it over to Ray and Michael Briley from Hayashi Willen to go over the slides, and then we can take questions.
Thank you, Suresh. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so our presentation will be very brief because Suresh gave a good summary of the audit and provided a lot of detail. So if you go to the first slide, our agenda, there's just a couple of points that I want to cover there.
Are you able to see the PowerPoint?
Yeah, Joel, the Hayashi Willen slides.
Are you able to see it now?
Yes, thank you, Joel. Appreciate it. So if you go to the next slide. So we're going to cover these 4 items: our auditor's opinion, and then communication with all of you, recommendations to management, and accounting updates. So the next slide is very straightforward. The objective of our audit: you hire us to perform our audit procedures and issue an opinion as to whether the statements of the district present reasonably in all material respects the financial position of the district in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So we met that objective, and as Suresh noted, we're pleased to report back to you that you received an unmodified opinion from our firm, and that means that your financial statements do present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the district in accordance with GAAP. That's the highest level of assurance you could receive from your auditors. Next area we're going to talk about is communication. So we're required by our auditing standards to have good, effective communication with the board, and we issue a separate letter stating some very specific things, and I'll go over those very briefly. So we're required to let you know what the significant accounting policies are, and those are all reported in the letter. Primarily that what management's responsibilities are and what the auditor's responsibilities are, trying to make a clear distinction between those two. I won't go into the details, but they're outlined in the letter. If there are any accounting estimates that are significant, we have to disclose those in the letter. And very important, if we ever run into disagreements with management, we need to disclose those to you. Sometimes that happens in an audit. We're very pleased to say that there were no disagreements in this audit. And another area that we're required to disclose is significant or unusual transactions. None were noted. If you go to the next slide, you'll see some areas we need to talk about. If we find out that the management had consultations with other accountants or auditors because they didn't like the work we were doing or our opinion, we would be required to let you know that. None of that was noted. And any unrecorded adjustments, none were noted. Any difficulties, none were noted. And if there were any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, we would be required to inform you of those things. And again, none were noted. So very favorable letter. And again, all the detail is in one of the deliverables that you have in your audit packet. Next slide. So Ray is going to take a moment to talk you through the adjustments we made in our audit, and then some recommendations and accounting updates.
All right, so on the adjusting journal entries, we only had 2 this year. And really it's not from a lack of, procedures being followed. It's just that due to the fact that the reclamation project is a component unit on your financial statements, that we have to eliminate what they would call internal balances. So there was a loan that was made to reclamation project last fiscal year. And then this year, 500,000 of that loan was paid back. So we eliminated that. So that caused a over $500,000 change in the net position because we took it out of revenue and offset the internal balance that was due. And then the other 2 journal entries we make, refer to them as GASB journal entries, but really that just relates to the pension and the OPEB that Suresh just highlighted, how there was an increase in both of those obligations. And so those are entries that we do make just at the end of the year as part of the audit. There's a detailed GASB workbook that Suresh has to complete. There's an evaluation report that we get from the actuary, and a lot goes into it just to come up with those final journal entries. And that also decreased the net position, but it decreases it only on the government-wide statements. So the ones that have both the district and the reclamation project in there. There's 2 pages of those reports. It doesn't impact what you're used to seeing as your governmental activities. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And then kind of like that, we didn't see any internal control issues to note. We had no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, which that lend itself to that we don't have any current year recommendations for any improvement on the controls. And if there were any prior year ones, which I want to say there weren't any last year either, those have been addressed. And even in the remote environment, the controls are working in place. I think the whole change in the accounting system that's happened over the last 5 years, whatever, has lent itself really to be very useful in having digital sign-offs and electronic transactions. And so we had no weaknesses to report. Next. So here we're supposed to report to you what accounting standards are implemented and which ones are coming up. The district implemented 3 standards this year, but actually only one of them had any impact. You don't have any fiduciary activities. So GASB statement 84 had no impact. You didn't have any majority equity interest, so it didn't have any impact. And then the last one had to do with that renaming of the comprehensive annual financial report to the annual comprehensive financial report, and the use of the acronym is changed. So it was just minor referencing in the reports. That's the only thing that changed. And then there's several upcoming accounting pronouncements. Most of these had been issued even in prior years and were mentioned before. And of that long list, don't need to read them all. The only one that we feel will have an impact on the district would be GASB Statement 87 on leases. And that's just going to have an impact that all leases that are over 12 months will have to be reflected as a right to use asset on their balance sheet, and then the corresponding liability to offset it. So there's some work to be done to properly account for those, because they're slightly different than what we currently account for, but we'll give Suresh some resources and we'll look into any other tools that we can have to make the correct adjustments next year. And I want to say that's it that we had. Is the next slide just the end? Yeah. So I think at this point, I know Suresh went over the numbers at a high level. We just are open to if there's any questions regarding either the annual comprehensive financial report itself or the board disclosure letter.
Okay, any board questions? Go ahead, Director Adams.
Just curious about the leases change. I think it was 87.
Yes.
GASB. Will that be applied to not just agencies like our own, but to other sorts of special districts and to the county government as well? If it's an accounting change?
Yes, it should apply to all organizations. I want to say there's some that are probably excluded specifically in the standard, but it's even applying to commercial entities. All commercial already have implemented it. Not-for-profits and governments got an extension of time of 18 additional months.
Okay.
Because it's pretty complex.
Sounds like it, but thank you so much for explaining it.
Okay, Director Rowley.
I want to thank the auditors for First of all, looking backwards, because that's what auditors do, is cover the records and the transactions and the accounting system that's in the past. But I want to thank them for it's the leases agreement that even Director Adams mentioned. It's looking forward, and I appreciate the looking forward part as well. I just want to thank you for that.
Hey, any other questions before we open that up to the public? All right, Joel, let's open it up to the public, please.
Yes, so if you would like to make public comment on item number 13, please raise your hand. And Chair Edwards, I do not see anybody with their hands raised, so I'll return this back to the board.
Okay, need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Director Malik made the motion. I need
I'll
a second. Okay, Director Adams made the second, just on the second. Hey, I want to thank the auditors and staff for doing a good job. Now, I know we got about 6 awards under that last acronym. Now we need to get 6 more under that new one. So I know y'all can do it. So let's start working on that next. But I want to thank you all for all the good work you do every year. I know this is the time of year. Okay, if no other comments, okay, roll call vote, please.
Director Riley?
Enthusiastic, yes.
Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Roberson?
Aye.
Director Malik?
Yep.
Director Adams?
Aye.
Vice Chair Paul? Vice Chair Paul?
Yes.
Okay. And Chair Edwards?
Yes.
Motion passes on a vote of 7-0.
7-0, thank you. Happy holidays to you. All right.
Thank you,
Next item, action item, GM.
And yeah, I hope the rest of our meeting goes really well, because last time we saw Michael Briley was at last week's LAFCO meeting, right before our item came up. So memories. The next item is the proposed board meeting schedule for the next calendar year. Joelle, can you address this one?
Yes, directors. So I've drafted the meeting schedule for calendar year January 2022 through February 2023. I've reviewed this meeting calendar with our general manager, and this meeting calendar is pretty much good to go. Please note that the schedule is subject to change in the event that a special meeting of the board of directors is needed. And when it is needed, we will provide notification by email to our distribution list, and it will also be posted, our agendas will be posted on the district webpage. At this time, I'll take any questions from the board. And if there's any changes to the meeting calendar, please let me know.
Board, do you have any questions? I don't see any hands. Okay, Joelle, let's open it up to the public. Let's see if they have any questions.
Yes, so if you would like to make public comment on item number 14, please raise your hand. Chair Edwards, I do not see anybody with their hands raised, so I'll return this back to the board.
All right, thank you. Motion in a second, please.
I move approval.
Oh, everybody don't have to jump on that one, but I heard Mayor Clyde first, and we throw it out to the vice chair on this one. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Yes, Director Malik.
Yep.
Director Roberson?
Yes.
Director Riley?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
I'm going to try, yep.
Director Adams?
Aye.
Director Paul?
Yes.
And Chair Edwards?
Yes.
The motion passes on a vote of 7-0.
7-0, thank you. Next item.
The next item, item 17, is a review and adoption of the district's Redistricting Advisory Commission rules of procedure. While the title says Advisory Redistricting Commission. I think it got changed to Redistricting Advisory Commission. I may be looking at an old agenda. Yeah. And the reason I'm looking at the old agenda is because my internet connection to the board packet just died. So Joelle, not to put you on the spot, but please walk the board through this item.
Yes, directors. So the matter presented in front of you is to review and consider adopting the MPWMD Redistricting Advisory Commission. On the board agenda, as I noted earlier, the recommended action should be stricken out, and it should read as follows. The board should review and consider adopting the Redistricting Advisory Commission rules of procedures and provide direction to staff on the names of communities of interest that should be invited to participate. I hope that you've all had a chance and an opportunity to review the rules of procedure. Do I have any directors that have any comments or questions, suggestions, anything?
Any board members have any comments for?
This is Exhibit 15B.
Okay, 15B, Director Rowley, I see your hand up, then we go to Director Adams.
I want to go to the Exhibit 15A.
Okay.
The middle of the page, Director Appointments.
Yes.
I don't think the city representative, Mayor Clyde, should be limited to representatives of his own city. He represents all the cities.
Right.
And so it could be a representative from any city in the district. And I just don't want that limitation to be applied to the mayor as a city representative.
All right, so I'll go ahead and note.
I have a second.
Go ahead and note that. Yeah.
Okay, I have a second point, which is on the second page of the memo, which is on page, whatever it is, 92. And it's the middle of the page, item number 1.
Yes.
And it says, and it's a confusing statement to me. The city representative shall appoint a representative, blah, 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 so and so. Shall not be a paid member of staff. My question is, the paid member of staff of who? If it's a staff of one of the organizations that are listed above, I don't see anything wrong with that. But it wasn't clear whether that was an issue or not when they said, nor a paid member of staff. I just want that clarification. But I think it should not be limited. It should not eliminate a staff person of an organization that we're addressing, we're recruiting.
So Director Riley, if I'm hearing you out correctly, would you want that language stricken out to also include a paid member of staff?
Well, I think, yeah, maybe not a paid member of city staff, because there would be a perceived conflict between the mayor and a member of his own staff, but a paid member of staff of one of the affected organizations, I think would work. So I think it should just say city staff, and that was the intent.
Or public agency staff might be the right reference. Okay, yes, I'm okay with that.
Yep. And to your first point, yeah, I think what it does is it gives the mayor the ability to do an at-large appointment, which is very consistent with what we're trying to get accomplished anyway. So he'd have the flexibility of somebody he knows and cares about locally, or somebody in any one of the 6 incorporated cities. So I think we can, with that change and the clarification on the second item, we could move forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Director Adams.
Thank you. Yes, I'm at 15A as well. And I noted the list that you had of the suggested places where we could reach out to find appropriate people to, and we let them know about what it is that we're doing here. So I just had a few other places that I thought that we should include, a few other organizations. And the first is the Monterey County Hospitality Association. Since we had labor unions in, I thought we should have these other groups in as well. And then all of the other chambers, you have Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce. I think we should include Carmel and Pacific Grove specifically, but the other ones that are on the peninsula. And then perhaps through the cities, we could add any other resident or neighborhood association groups within the peninsula cities. I know Mayor Roberson is very familiar with those organizations. So those might be some, you know, since we're doing outreach, it might be a few other ways that we can reach people.
Okay, any other questions?
If I could add on to that, please, Chair.
Go ahead there, Mayor.
Yes, I was looking at that. Thank you, Mary, for bringing that up. And we actually have 15 active neighborhood associations in the city of Monterey alone. And I don't know if I can consolidate them, or you can just put them on an email list. Possibly, I can provide that for you. But and also the other neighboring jurisdictions. I write a summary of our meeting to our other mayors, and in that I will ask if they have any communities of interest. But then I could provide you the contacts for our neighborhood associations. That list is getting really long, but
and thank you for bringing that. Thank you for bringing that up, Mayor, because here's my question to the GM and staff. All right, how much time do we have to get all these people together?
Yeah, so we've given them through January 7th to make a statement of interest, which can be just a few simple sentences. I would assume that through the individual staffs of the supervisor and the mayor, that additional correspondence can be done. Same thing with the directors, you know, people, just put an email blast out to your group. We've hit, as you've seen, Carmel Residents Association, Carmel Valley Association, NAACP, so we've found and hit a number of the groups, but right now we're just looking to get the word out. We have run our first of 2 consecutive weeks ads in the Weekly, the Pinecone, the PG Press, and so those looked pretty good, and I think they're very clear. Joel's done a great job. Letters are prepared to go out to the organizations that we have, and so we'll quickly springboard with these new ones. But it's all just potential volunteer gathering. The demographers don't really want to have a first meeting until, Joel, was it the 28th?
Yeah, so the board will confirm or ratify their appointments at the first regularly scheduled meeting in January. They're looking at a January 31st date as their first meeting, but they're open to other dates in early February as well.
Yep, and so that's our lead.
Chair Edwards, you're muted.
You're muted.
Go ahead, Vice Chair. You got your finger up.
How many meetings, how many times will the advisory commission meet? That's something that potential volunteers will want to know.
Yeah, it's hopeful we can do it in 3. I think, Joelle, you've been counseled by the demographers to keep some additional times open, maybe up to 5.
That's correct.
Okay, and those going to be Zoom meetings since the way it's looking now?
Yes.
Yes, they're all going to be virtual meetings.
Okay, good. Let's put that out there to the public so some of them don't be scared. They're jumping in there. Okay. Any other questions? If none, let's open it up to the public.
Yes, so if you would like to make public comment on item number 15, please raise your hand. And Chair Edwards, I do not see anybody with their hands raised, so I'll return this back to the board.
Okay.
Could I just add a couple of things? This is not as big, it's not as big a production as the county is. I'm sure you're aware that County District 4 is concerned about an increase in more Salinas added to the Seaside Del Rey Oaks Marina could dilute the social and economic communities that are in the coastal area. And the northern district wants to maintain and enhance their rural character. And so as they try to balance, you know, those are larger kind of geopolitical social issues than what we think we're going to face here, because we've got these contiguous boundaries all on the peninsula. But, you know, we don't have any proposals yet from our demographers. And so we don't have alternatives to look at. But they did tell us that there's kind of three levels. One is just minor changes, and then there's limited changes, and then there's major changes. And because of the disparity between two of our voter divisions, they felt it fell in the category of level 3, for which an advisory committee, a redistricting advisory committee is needed. But again, we're not so geographically large that we run the same risks that the county does.
Okay. Any other comments? Just quick comments from me. Let's stay on top of this. This is important. So, and let's don't wait all you know, let's get out there to the public and let's get it back. Because once we start, I don't want anybody coming through the door and say, I wasn't notified. So we got to do extra notifications. Let's do it. Let's do it. So these people will be notified and we can get this done. If no other comments, okay, you need a motion to approve this. Okay, don't be scared to approve it.
I move to approve.
Okay, you got your second from me so we can move on. Move to approve by the vice chair, second by the chair. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Chair, before you go to roll call vote, subject to the two edits that were suggested earlier by Mr. Ryan.
Oh, do you want to put?
Thank you.
Vice chair will accept them in the motion, and I will accept them in the motion. Okay. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Director Riley?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Roberson?
Aye.
Director Malik?
Yep.
Director Adams?
Aye.
Vice Chair Paul?
Yes.
Chair Edwards?
Yes.
The motion passes on a vote of 7-0.
7-0. Thank you. What's that next item?
This is the transition.
I'm ready.
Well, first off, Joelle, by any chance, do you have the recognition that we can at least flash on the screen handy, or is it out of reach?
I have it in front of me. I did not take a picture of it.
There we go.
Oh, very nice.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we couldn't get one. You know, we thought it'd be more appropriate to have a sledgehammer on there than just a mere gavel. And we had this ready for you at the end of last year, and then we had to revise it to show the 20 and 21 years. So we're very proud to have had you as our primary leader, and of course Vice Chair Paul for the year. And it is that time. So hopefully there will be an undisputed slate of nominees for the incoming chair and vice chair. By rotation, that would be current Vice Chair Paul to move up to chair, and current Director and Supervisor Adams to move into the vice chair position. But we need a nomination and a vote. And along with that, the recommendation is to renew the term as your treasurer, the CFO, Suresh Prasad, and as your secretary, myself. And that would be the slate, hopefully, of incoming leadership for the board for the calendar year 2021.
Okay, and just to move it.
2022.
I'm sorry, 22. Yep, good point.
And just to move this along a little bit faster, because we've got to go back in closed session, save all your thank yous for January. So I appreciate it. I want you to think about them over the holidays, so you save them all for January.
Do you want it in writing? You want it in writing?
Okay, no, I don't want them in writing. But we can save them all to January, So let's take it out to the public, see if they have any comment.
Yeah, so if you would like to make public comment on item number 16, please raise your hand. Chair Edwards, I do not see anybody with their hands raised, so I'll return this back to the board.
Thank you. So I'd like to make the motion that we move the vice chair to chair for the coming year of 2022.
I second.
She's ready.
I second.
And I got a second from Director Malik. Okay, any comments on that one?
That would include your treasurer and secretary as well.
Yeah, can we do these one at a time?
Can we do all at once?
Or we do them all at once?
I don't know.
You can do them all at once.
You may permissibly do them all at once.
Okay, I'll make the nominations for the vice chair to move the chair and for Director Adams to become the vice chair. And we will add the treasurer and the secretary, CFO, and the general manager as secretary. Now, do I have that second, Director Malik?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments on those? Just a comment from me. I think everybody is ready for the move. I'm ready for the move.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify that the terms of office will begin in 2022, so you still have to do the laboring effort at the closed session tonight.
Oh, okay, but I was wondering that, but then after that is they take over, right? Or January 1st?
January 1st.
Okay, well, you know, I love to be in control.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? If none, roll call vote, please.
Director Anderson.
Yes.
Director Roberson.
Yes.
Director Riley.
With a big thank you, yes.
Director Malik.
Yep.
Director Adams.
Aye.
Vice Chair Paul.
Yes, and I'm going to be disobedient and say that Chair Edwards, it's been great working together with you, and I feel like we've been a good team, and I've watched you and hopefully learned a few things. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Chair Edwards.
Thank you. Yes, and thank you all. Okay.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Any information items or on the staff reports? Anybody? If none, check with the public to make sure.
And Chair Edwards, I do not see anybody with their hands raised.
Okay. General Counsel, read us back in the closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are going to return to closed session. We are going to continue the conference with legal counsel for the matters listed on the agenda. You've already had your public comment on this. There's no need for renewed public comment unless you wish.
All right, thank you. Anybody out there in the public, just checking because we're trying to keep it legal.
Well, we probably have about 10 more minutes when we're done.
And nobody has their hands raised, Chair Edwards.
Okay, we're adjourned. We adjourn the closed session. Thank you.